Hello and welcome to another big UC news show. My name's David Dungay. Today we have another collection of fantastic industry analysts. Let's do a few introductions before we get into our topics for the day. Mr. Balloons, Evan Kirstel, welcome to the show. Craig Durr, welcome. Blair Pleasant, welcome. And last but not least, John Arnold. Thank you everyone for joining me. And how can I forget my co-host for today, or co-pilot as we're now calling you, Mr. Rob Scott. How's everyone doing?
Good, thanks.
Great.
Well, we have a fantastic selection of news stories today. Let's dive straight in. Rob, what is first on the list?
Oh, David, we got a good one to start with today. Just when, we thought the nail was in the coffin for the PBX, well, it actually might be right now with NEC's latest story that we just covered on UC today about them pulling out or withdrawing from the on-premises PBX market. So big news. Love to dig into that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not necessarily surprising news, but NEC has been long associated, one of the stalwarts in the on-prem world, particularly strong in the SMB space as well. They are ceasing operations outside of Japan, their sort of home market. And this is significant for a number of reasons, not a new trend we're seeing, but, they're very much focusing on that UC Univerge Blue product they have, or that UCaaS product I should have. And so this is very, very significant. So this is another example of a big vendor trying to make this transition. We've seen this before with mixed success. I won't name any names, but I am extremely excited to hear what our panelists think about this move and what it means for the wider market. Blair, should we start with you? What do you think? What does this mean for the future of on-prem generally?
Well, I think everyone was kind of surprised about the NEC announcement because they were doing well with on-prem, especially in Japan, which is where they're keeping it. But on-prem has actually been doing okay. And, according to the recent numbers from MZA and some others, NEC was doing really well, except for maybe in the US, but internationally, they were doing really well with on-prem, mostly SMB. But so I think people were kind of surprised about this. So as far as NEC, I think what happened is that they were having some issues that started back in COVID and also with their semiconductor business. So looking at the larger NEC, and they were having some financial challenges and they needed to become more profitable. And I think they felt that UC was kind of a red ocean and things had moved on beyond that. So they felt that investing in that some more wouldn't really be a wise decision. And they had the UCaaS agreement with Intermedia, which is still doing really well. So the plan is that in Japan, they'll continue doing on-prem, but everywhere else, they're just going to be focusing on UCaaS, and that's going to be through Intermedia. And so they're still going to be supporting Intermedia. And I actually got hot off the press the Intermedia statement about this and what it means to their business. So basically it said that they're discontinuing the on-prem UC business outside of Japan and that underscores the market's continued shift toward the cloud, blah, blah, blah. The rapid growth of NEC Univerge Blue, NEC's flagship unified communications as a service product and contact center as a product solution built on Intermedia's AI-powered cloud platform, exemplifies this industry trend. And as NEC's exclusive cloud provider, Intermedia is committed more than ever to supporting partners through this transition. We'll continue to innovate and enhance our collective offerings to deliver solutions that enable businesses to connect, collaborate, and provide better customer care from whenever they work. And they're going to be extending their commitment beyond their contractual obligations. So basically what this means is it's really good news for Intermedia and also really good news for Mitel. Because for customers that do want on-prem, and there's still a lot of companies that want on-prem, there aren't that many companies left. And so this really does give a good opportunity to Mitel, which, is still committed to, on-prem hybrid. And of course, they've got the cloud solution through RingCentral. But for companies that do want, that security and some of the things that on-prem provides, Mitel, Avaya, maybe somewhat Cisco. I mean, there just aren't that many players around. So it's good news for the few on-prem providers left. So I'd say, everyone was kind of taken aback and surprised by this NEC announcement. It's bad news for NEC, good news for Intermedia, Mitel, and possibly Avaya.
You did that nice interview with Alan from the Avaya event, and trying to get people to understand that what that Zoom partnership was really about. But again, it's the same story, right? To support the prem-based Aura deployments, there's still a market there. And so I agree with you totally. It's good news for those handful who are left. And it reminds me a little bit about ALE, when they would give their quarterly analyst updates. It'd be a disaster. Every report, it just gets worse and worse and worse. The numbers keep going south. Sooner or later, you've got to do something about it. So I just think they just made a business decision, and good news for Intermedia. And so it's not terribly surprising, but you wonder why you walk away from something like that. They just have higher priorities. That's
I think what was surprising was the timing.
Yeah. It's also one of the problems with these companies that do more than just make phone systems, right? And NEC is a very diversified company. So they're in a different, just like Cisco, they're in a very different set of circumstances than a, purpose-built phone company or cloud platform. Sorry, Evan, I know you had some stuff to add too.
No, I just an afterthought kind of while you guys were talking as a sales guy for 20 years. I think what I noticed is the sales and go-to-market have completely changed underneath NEC's feet. I mean, they notoriously sold through a network of thousands of dealers, small, almost mom and pop sales reps. And people don't buy communication services that much from dealers anymore, PBXs and phone systems. Even if you're a large enterprise, you buy direct. Otherwise, you go on the web and you buy professional services and self-provision, and so the whole market has shifted away from that kind of dealer reseller network in a lot of ways, and I think that's probably one of the driving factors as well.
Let's ask the headline question here, right? We released a poll on LinkedIn recently asking our audience, what is the future of on-prem? That poll came back. 38% of them said there's always going to be a market for on-prem. It doesn't necessarily tally with what's going in the space, but what does the panel think about that? What do you think? Where's this on-prem market going more generally?
Well, David, for anyone that's ever engineered an NEC phone system, a PBX, these things are going to live long, right? Live a long life. There's going to be parts going on for years and years and years. So don't worry.
I remember seeing a picture you posted of an old phone. You're like, this is my old life here. I think I remember these from the day before. But, I just did some work where I was working with a company, and, one of their core areas is there's some industry verticals that still require a phone to be present. And a percentage of those are going to have a PBX behind that. You can think about hospitality is one of the key ones. There's some medical and as well as retail. And when you get down to these smaller entities, in this time we were looking at hotel chains, which are independently owned. You might have an owner who owns 5 or 6 hotels, and for them to have a on-premise PBX works for their needs. And like you said, it is solid iron that's going to be around for a long time, and they need like a flood or a hurricane of that system to drive them to upgrade. And so those systems are there. It's what they built their use cases around. It's what they built their workflows around too. Like you said, I don't think it's necessarily growing, but it's not going to be going away.
Yeah.
I think hybrid is going to be the future for a lot of companies, where they can combine their on-prem with cloud capabilities and some other things, whether it's AI or whatever that they're getting from the cloud. So I think for the foreseeable future, hybrid is definitely going to be a big part of the mix.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to see numbers on is there's still a lot of phones on desks. So yes, they're deployed. The licenses are sold, but what's the utility been? What is the usage, the engagement with those phones been? I mean, Cisco just came out with a new line of phones. Like, who releases new phones in this day and age? Well, there are reasons, but I'm sure that the usage of those phones isn't anywhere what it used to be. But having it on the desk may be all that IT really needs to worry about.
John, I talked to the product manager for that. You're right. And he said, look, we're revisiting that idea of hot desking. The original term of hot desking, of having a seat and checking in, but this hybrid work mentality now where people are doing shared desk. He says, I think there's opportunity for that type of to refresh those hot desking phones to service this new use case.
Fantastic. So this might lead into our next story quite nicely. Rob, what have we got?
Well, as you say, it's very much linked to what we've just talked about. It's a little bit more on Intermedia. They've just secured $345 million. I think we should discuss what they're going to do with it, why they got it in the first place, and what impact does this have on the wider industry? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this is a story of doubling down on cloud growth, right? Much like we were just talking about. Who wants to start us off on this one? Intermedia, what are the big challenges they're going to have with making this transition in the space? Blair, what do you think?
Yeah, so I did get some information from Intermedia. They can't talk too much about what they're going to be investing in, but certainly, they've been doing some good stuff with AI. They've already done quite a bit in AI, and I think they're just going to keep doubling down on that. And as far as, I think we're going to see more innovations. Like they came out with the with archiving, not just for we've had archiving for a long time for voice, but they also now have archiving for different channels. And so they're doing some innovative things, and I think they're really trying to differentiate, especially from the Ring Centrals and, some other companies. So I think the main idea is to be able to have that money to innovate in some new things, AI and some things that are maybe going to set them apart. They also recently announced that they're going to have an offering for service providers. So they're taking their white label type capabilities that they've had for partners and making that available for service providers. I keep losing my headset. So they're making their capabilities available for service providers because, a lot of companies have been a little not as happy with the moves that Cisco and Microsoft have made, BroadSoft and some of those other things. So there's really an opportunity in the service provider market for a new partner. So Intermedia came out with something, basically taking the capabilities that they have and making it available for service providers. So I think we'll see some innovations in that area too. So I think it's going to be just, enhancing their current capabilities, innovating in AI and some other things, trying to come out with some new things, and then also looking at service providers. That's where I think we'll see more of the investment focus for a while.
Yeah, I would really echo that with Blair on the service provider side. Service providers are notorious for not really innovating much and not having much depth in terms of R&D and unique, models around collaboration tools. A lot of them have partnered. Look at like T-Mobile for Business partnering with Dialpad. That's a really successful model, but that leverages the Dialpad brand and their market stance. So the ability for a service provider to totally white label and own the brand for those services and to customize them, enhance them is really unique without having to put all the R&D dollars into that development. So it's they're going to go big after tier 1 and tier 2 service providers.
And I was at the Cloud Connections event last week, which is aimed at service providers and carriers. And I think there's definitely an interest in, again, a lot of them are kind of disillusioned with Cisco and what used to be, Metaswitch, which is, part of Microsoft. So they're looking for new solutions. And, a lot of the solutions they were on, so even though they were selling cloud, the platforms are actually prem-based, so they are looking for cloud-based solutions for selling their cloud solutions. So I think there is a good opportunity for Intermedia and some of these other players that are out there, Crescendo and Reach and some others.
Yeah. A few things I could amplify on that as well. Blair, you mentioned archiving, and I think that's kind of one of the under the radar things that to me differentiates Intermedia. That it's built into the platform as opposed to going to a best of breed partner. And I think that's just, again, thinking about innovating for where everything is heading, that uh, the data streams that just keep coming and adding to the load that needs to be managed and becoming more driven by AI for extracting, the analytics and all of the things around that. Having that capability in house that's, searchable, is really important. And I think they've positioned themselves well for that. And in terms of, where else that money could go, obviously verticals, just like Mitel announcing some verticals. They've got a very good
Forgot about
healthcare.
that. Healthcare.
Yeah, Intermedia has a good healthcare story. I mean, a big part of that is the integration with the electronic medical records. The partnerships that they have to have in that industry is very specific. And again, the volumes of data, critical healthcare, sensitive information, if they can really become a market leader in that space, again, archiving, I think, is part of that story. That positions them well to go after other highly, sensitive, regulated sectors like finance and government that have similar needs. And that, again, the archiving piece for compliance is a big piece that I still think has to come into its own yet. We're starting to see some regulations in the EU. They've just had that AI Act passed, and that sets some groundwork for requirements that are going to play into archiving. That I think is a big part of it. And the US is eventually going to have to go down this path as well. So I think that's a good story for them. And also, again, that money could be used to really boost what they're doing with NEC, position them maybe more for some upmarket, expansion. And of course, that allows them to make some, small acquisitions along the way, just, position them as one of those independent brands that can compete with the big guys pretty well, because they've been kind of staying in this lane for a long time. And I think, it's a bit like BCM1 acquiring all of these smaller players like CoreDial. Along the way, they consolidate, but Intermedia is now becoming big enough that I don't see someone taking them out. I think it's a little bit more like what Mitel was doing, getting bigger through acquisition. So that cash, I think, can help them in that path, presuming that's the game they want to be playing. And I think it is.
Or partnerships. This brings us full circle back to the NEC story and NEC's medical records business as well too, right?
Great. Well, shall we move on to our next story of the day? Rob, what have we got?
Well, it goes without saying, I suppose, that Microsoft Copilot continues to trend heavily everywhere and on UC today. But recently, we've been running some stories around Microsoft Security Copilot, particularly interesting. Our audience are finding this really, really interesting. And it seemingly they're curious. They want to know how it works, what they can use it for, that kind of thing. And I suppose the question on the table is, are we prepared? And what's the impact on the widest kind of security workforce out there? So I'd love to dig into that story. David, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a big one, actually, and I'll start with a bit of a scene setter. As part of our community group on LinkedIn, so UC Today community group, join it if you're not in it already. But we do ask poll questions and insightful things there, almost every day. But we asked our audience, do we take cybersecurity seriously enough as an industry? And the results came back. Frighteningly unprepared was 24%, worrying, but maybe not catastrophic, 48%, and then 28% were either prepared or robust. So that is worrying in itself, I would say. But interestingly, how can products like Microsoft Security Copilot really address these concerns people have got right now? We do have a 3.4 million person skills gap within the security industry. That's 3.4 million security roles that are currently not fulfilled. So that is a problem that needs to be solved. And Microsoft Security Copilot, which is now available, it's doing a lot of things around this area to really help security professionals resolve some of these issues. So we're seeing things like incident summarization for quicker response times, impact analysis, reverse engineering scripts for malware, so you don't have to do it manually, and then guided response for maybe less experienced professionals as well. So they're really gearing this product around helping that security professional get more from the sort of security protocols. So let's hand this over to Craig now, our expert. Craig, what are you seeing in the security space? And how do you see this product and where it sits?
I think you were hitting some of the key ideas. Microsoft, and specific to their Security Copilot, by the way, they have lots of copilots these days. That's only a category name. I think one of our colleagues, Tom Arbonat, is doing a session on it right now, and he's breaking down the 13 or 14 different copilots he's realized Microsoft's offered. And here's number 15. This really is geared towards that security professional. And I think the heart of it winds up using the generative AI to allow them to interact with the information that's coming back to them, to be more efficient and to be more timely. It's also proposed that it can help less. I'm stumbling on words here. It can also help people who are less experienced also jump into the security fray much easier and understand what's going on. So it's on the surface, it winds up being a convenience tool, generative AI, prompt engine. It does narrow itself down to specific data, and it does do some steps in the background to make sure that it's not hallucinating. What's really nice about what it does is it ties into the whole stack of Microsoft security products, everything that it has listed right now from Entra to Intune to Purview to Defender. And then it also allows API access to other products that people may have access to as well. It's designed to be a international tool. It's got like multiple languages in it as well. So I think it's interesting that it's taking a core audience, security professionals, one that you just identified has a huge gap in terms of people in seats right now. There's a huge need for more security professionals right now to help in that area. So it's a really interesting approach of how to use generative AI. I wouldn't say it's replacing jobs. I think it's here to help augment and fill some of those gaps in terms of skill sets along the way. Now, I'll share with you also this. It's interesting talking about security and AI. I had a chance to be at the Google Cloud Next event that took place earlier this month. They also released a security AI feature. Now, they did it in a different way, though. So instead of being this generative AI interaction thing, it is something that works in the background, but it uses its AI to help with some security features for small and medium businesses. In particular, it focuses on data leakage protection, so DLP activity. And what is it doing? It's taking some of that hard activities like classification of words and things like that, and automating it through AI. The core of it is what it's called its AI classification engine. So to compare and contrast what these two large companies that have both released security AI-driven products along the way, Microsoft has got this one that's very end-user centric in terms of how you interface with it and get information back. Google has one that they have in the background that's helping security professionals, especially when they don't have the skills, but it's helping to automate and fill in some of those steps that need to be done that large companies can do that have a really deep field of security professionals on hand.
I think that's really interesting, Craig. And I look at this through a lens of, I struggle with Excel formulas, and I'm using AI Copilot to kind of help me, figure, the formulas out in Excel. I can only imagine what level of complexity it is for a security officer in an organization nowadays managing an enterprise stack. So I think to get on board with this now and really start filling those gaps, absolutely crucial.
I think what this is really interesting. It shows great insight into Microsoft's AI story. I was joking about the number of copilots they have under the umbrella, but they seem to be taking the approach that we understand you and your profession. We understand you in your area. We can help narrow in on that data. We can help create boundaries so that it doesn't hallucinate and actually is authenticated to serve your needs along the way. It's an interesting approach. Again, as a media professional, they might come up with a media copilot AI for you and David. We'll have to see.
This is a game changer for the SMB, right? Who might not have the budget to necessarily invest in their cybersecurity profile, as much as and people around the table as well. And Blair, we were talking earlier as well. You had a few incidents recently, which left you scrambling to get back hold of your email accounts and things. Do we think this is going to be a tide change for that SMB market?
I think anything that can security is so top of mind for everybody, especially in the AI world. Because if you ask anybody why they're not doing AI right now, it's because of security and trust. So if you can find a way to help people feel more comfortable about it, it's just going to change the game, because that really is the number one barrier and gating factor right now. So for SMBs, especially that don't have, the resources, I think this can be really huge.
Fantastic. So, shall we move on to events? Rob, what is coming up in the event space?
Well, yeah, finally, we've got some really good events coming up. First of all, if you've got Avaya in your UC or CX stack, then Avaya Engage is coming up May 13th to the 15th, Denver, Colorado. If you're into contact center or even the wider CX stack, again, we've got CCW in Vegas, which is a huge contact center event. It's a fantastic expo and conference, and that's June 3rd to the 6th. Hot on the Hills, we've got Nice Interactions. Again, another very CX focus. You're following me so far. There's a bit of a theme. But we've got that Nice Interactions event in Vegas again, June 10th to the 12th. Now, going off slightly on a tangent, we're back in the UC space with collaboration at Infocom, 8th of June. And again, guess where it is? It's in Vegas. But a fantastic event, nonetheless, to get to, so you can explore all the latest devices, PBXs, UCaaS, everything that's available in the collaboration space and UC space nowadays. And finally, if you're into Microsoft Teams, which most people are nowadays, June 26th to the 27th in the UK, we've got Commsverse, which is another fantastic event to make your way to. And that's it from me, David.
Fantastic. So, party in Vegas, everyone.
And isn't there also a Cisco Live? Isn't there also Cisco Live in Vegas?
There is. You're right. There is a Cisco Live in Vegas as well in early June, Blair. So I think the only answer is we've all got to get ourselves to Vegas pronto.
I think we've got to relocate to Vegas, haven't we? Full time. So
I just want to go to Vegas for one event and see the sunshine. That's all I want to do. I just want to get out of a convention center and see actually that there's sunny Vegas.
There you go. Well, that's the place to do it. So I'd like to leave things there. Look, thank you so much to my panel for your contributions today. Let's do a quick round of thank yous. Evan, Craig, Blair, John, thank you so much for joining me. And of course, Mr. Rob Scott, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. My name is David Dungay. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.